Hello Internet people, and welcome to Vlogtober day 25, where I'm challenging myself to sew for 1 hour every day and bringing you along for the journey. Today is part 2 of sewing the Peppermint Peplum top. Yesterday I sewed for about 2 hours and I made it about halfway through the top. All that's left is the neck binding, the peplum, and the hem, and then it'll be finished. Now, if you watched yesterday's video, you'll have seen that I made a pretty big mistake on the bias binding, and I was contemplating redoing it. And I just want to thank you for all of your comments saying, do not redo it. I was pretty much leaning towards that because I did figure that it would probably stretch out the armband and just make things worse. So thank you guys for that. But what I am going to do is I think I'm going to redo the top stitching around the armholes, because I started with this black thread yesterday because that's all I thought I had, but I was taking a look again at my thread collection and I found a thread that yesterday I thought wouldn't match, but today I actually tried it out on the fabric and I think it does match pretty well. It's this one on the inside here, and I think that's a pretty decent match, and I think it's gonna look a lot better than the black contrasting top stitching. So that's the plan. I'm gonna go ahead and finish it before redoing any top stitching, but I already have the new color loaded up in the machine, so it's ready to work on the neckband. So let's get started. So after I'm done sewing today, I'm going to attempt to do the hashtag 5 questions 1 take challenge. I am part of a sewing YouTuber Facebook group that Lindsay from Inside the Hem kind of revived recently, and she challenged us all to do this hashtag. And the main idea is that you answer 5 questions in 1 take, so there's no editing of the video. So I'm going to attempt to do that, and I definitely think it's going to be a challenge for me because if you can't tell, I edit my videos a lot. It's very hard for me to verbally express my ideas in like a coherent way. I'm actually not bad at writing and expressing my ideas through writing, so I probably should actually have like a blog, not a YouTube, but here we are. So I'm gonna attempt the challenge, and you guys will have a fun time seeing just how awkward I am when I don't have the magic of editing behind me. So anyways, first things first, let's get to the sewing. Also, if you want to go ahead and skip to the questions, I'm going to put chapters in this video along the scroll bar. So I'll have a sewing section and a question section, so you can skip around to whatever part that you actually want to watch. So I've come down here to the floor. I'm underneath my ironing board and in front of my fabric, but I managed to spend about an hour and 10-15 minutes on this neckline binding. That is all I managed to complete today. I wanted to take my time and go slow. I really like this other color thread. It matches so much better, and I think it looks way nicer than the contrasting top thread. Contrasting top thread is just, I mean, it's a recipe for messiness. So anyways, I like that. It did manage to come out a little puckered. I managed to iron out the puckers, but I wonder if I'm gonna come back tomorrow and they might all be back, so we'll see. Also, on the inside, in the pattern, they managed to get the bias binding to a perfect point at the V, and I reread the pattern a million times and I could not figure out how they did that. So mine looks like that, and I'm okay with it. So that is just how sewing goes sometimes. Sometimes you spend a lot of time on one little thing and sometimes it goes really fast. So anyways, okay, so it's time for the 5 questions 1 take portion of this video. Going forward, I will not be doing any editing. So you're getting the raw, unfiltered me. I'm kind of nervous. Oh my gosh. Okay, so I have the questions down here. Number 1, what has your sewing journey looked like? So I started sewing back in 2013, and you have to rewind a few years before that. I was selling vintage clothing, and I used to go to a ton of estate sales, and every estate sale would have a sewing room because, you know, the previous generation, they sewed more than I think many people nowadays do. And so every estate sale would have sewing rooms, and I would be so obsessed with the sewing rooms. I just loved going in them and looking through all the things and the patterns and the books. And so I actually started collecting vintage patterns. I did sell some of them, and vintage sewing books, and vintage sewing notions. And I started collecting all of the tools and different things that I might need. I just started picking them up really cheap because, you know, estate sales are pretty cheap. So I just started picking up all of the different things that I might need for sewing with the intention that I'll teach myself to sew one day. So years and years went on, and I never taught myself to sew, as it goes sometimes. And so one day I was just working and I had Project Runway on in the background, and I thought, you know what, the only way I'm going to learn to sew is if I take a class. So I started looking around for classes, and I found some sewing classes at my local community college, and it was a series of 3 classes that they have as their prerequisites to their apparel. They have an apparel design program, and so you have to do basically a year of sewing classes as prerequisites to get into their apparel design program. So I thought, that's cool. It was like once a week at night. So I decided to sign up and take the classes. So I started taking sewing classes, and I took one, and then I took winter quarter, and then I took spring quarter, and before you knew it, I had taken all 3 of the prerequisite courses, and they were classes that were designed for the apparel industry. So they were very focused on like learning to sew really detailedly, sewing very with a lot of detail and a lot of precision, so that you could go into their apparel design. So you had a really good, I guess, foundation for the apparel design program. So anyways, I ended up taking all 3 of those classes. I learned to sew really well, and I almost went into the apparel design program, but I didn't. So anyways, that's a story for another day. So that's how I learned to sew. Everything on top of that is just self-taught. So everything, I think, yeah, everything beyond that self-taught, like knits, I learned everything on my own, my serger. The course really was more like basic construction techniques. Like the 3rd class, we learned how to make a collared button-down shirt. So that was like the best. That was the, oh my God, this is so weird. I'm not gonna be able to edit this out. I don't know what I'm saying. Anyways, I learned to sew a button-down shirt, and everything outside of a button-down shirt, basically, I learned on my own. So yeah, okay, now I'm getting really flustered. Oh, this is so weird. Okay, number 2, describe your sewing space. We have a 1-bedroom apartment with a loft, and I sew in our loft. I share the loft with my husband, who's been working from home since the beginning of COVID. We share the loft. I do have a sewing room tour. My first day of Vlogtober, I did a sewing room tour. So if you want to see what the loft looks like, that's where it is. And it's not a lot of space. I have my fabric here, and I have a sewing table, and that's about it. But it does get very, very messy because we also kind of use the loft as storage. And so everything gets thrown up here. I have all kinds of boxes around me, and it's pretty messy up here, but it works. Yeah. Next up, what is it like to be a sewing YouTuber? I don't know. Oh my gosh, what is it like to be? You know, I started my YouTube channel because I don't know anyone in real life who sews clothing like I do. And so, you know, I talked to my husband about sewing, and he's a very good listener. And, you know, like it only goes so far though. So I really wanted a place where I could talk to other people about sewing. And I actually really like making videos. So it just came together as the perfect combination of things to do, to be able to talk about sewing and to make videos. And okay, one of the boxes fell over. That's a PDF plotting box. Just almost knocked you over, so okay, that's fun. All right, so anyways, I really wanted some place that I could talk, oh, goodness, it's so crooked now. I really wanted a place I could talk about sewing and not annoy my husband to death. So Okay, I'm like getting in my head again about this whole one take thing. See, you guys, I'm really bad. I use editing so much. So what is it like to be a sewing YouTuber? It's really amazing to be able to connect with other people about sewing and talk to people about sewing. And I feel like sewing is one of those things where knowledge should be freely shared amongst each other. You know, there's so many different ways to do things. And I think it's really great to have a community where you can share your ideas and share how you do something and learn and communicate with other people how they do it, you know, what they think. And it just creates like this wonderful community where we all are focused on the same thing and we can all help each other and get inspired by each other and learn and grow from each other. So that is what it's like to be a sewing YouTuber. Describe your most memorable projects. I think that my most memorable projects have been the 3 entries that I have entered into our state fair. For a couple years, I skipped the last 2 years. Well, 2020, there was no fair and I skipped this year. But the 3 years before that, I entered a dress into the state fair to be judged, and I've had 3rd place twice and 2nd place once. And those are definitely my most memorable projects because they're definitely the most complicated projects I've done. I always enter the short party dress division. So I make like a party dress that's a little bit more involved than most things that I make. And I really take a lot of time to really do it the best that I can. You know, I'll redo things, you know, it panders to the perfectionism, but I think that it's super memorable because I just don't spend that much time on anything and I don't spend as much thought, and getting feedback for your work is extremely valuable, and I really love getting that sort of thing. So yeah, it just really makes it all stick in your mind, the most memorable things. And I'm really proud that I've actually gotten ribbons for them before. So hopefully next year I'll be able to enter another dress and maybe I'll get 1st place. I told myself that the year I get 1st place, then I will move on to like another division. So instead of short party dress, you could do like day dress or a top or pants or something else. So if I ever get 1st place, I'll move out of short party dress into something else. So it's really fun. I enjoy it. Okay, last but not least, what is one quote, saying, piece of advice you've gotten that resonates with your sewing/YouTube success? Well, I don't know about YouTube success, but one thing that comes to mind is don't sew when you're tired. And I definitely have to heed this advice because once I get tired, I start making all kinds of mistakes. And so at some point you just have to call it and take a nap or come back to it the next day. But I think like in terms of sewing and YouTube, one thing that I think relates to both of them is just enjoying the process. You know, with sewing, there is so much about the process and not rushing through to finish as many things as you can and taking the time to just enjoy it and learn from every project. And I think it's the same thing for YouTube, you know, making videos, it's the same sort of process, you know, like you're not going to have the perfect video, you know, from the get-go. You're not going to have any subscribers. You'll have 0 subscribers and your video will probably suck and the lighting won't be good or the audio won't be good. And every video has the potential of having something wrong with it, and usually does have something wrong with it. And you have to kind of let go and just enjoy the process of every video you upload. You improve. Everything you sew, you improve and you learn more and you gain knowledge. And so I think there's something about not rushing through to be, you know, have 1 million subscribers or be able to sew like a tailored suit or something. You know, you have to take the time to learn and grow from your craft, whatever it is, and just enjoy that process. And so that's the advice that I have heard, or the advice that I really try to remember and take care of, because if I got caught up in every imperfection in every video and every sewing project, I wouldn't be here. I don't know where I'd be. I'd probably be cowering under, you know, in a corner somewhere shaking. So just gotta let some things go. Anyways, okay, that is a lot of rambling. So wow, that was really weird. And I hope that wasn't too rambly. I hope you enjoyed listening to my answers to the questions. So I think that's gonna do it for me. That's it for Vlogtober day 25. We are getting so close to the end. I can't even believe it. I've done, I think this is my 15th video in 25 days. So is that right? Something like that. So wow, I can't even, yeah, it's been a blur and it's been a lot of fun. So I will see you tomorrow for the third part of sewing this top here. Where did it go? I don't know where it went. Oh, here it is. The third installment of sewing my Halloween top. And thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.